We're now pitting two bikes that are big on value up against each other, even though they are fairly different propositions. First up, we've got Ribble out of Lancashire with their R872, and that's going up against what is very much an endurance bike, the clue's in the name. It's the Boardman Elite Endurance SLR 9.2 disc. So for those of you who don't know, because these are traditionally very much UK-centred brands, Ribble, named after the Ribble Valley, a beautiful part of Lancashire, and they've been around for many, many years now, and they've always offered outstanding value for the spec levels that you get on their bikes. In the last couple of years, Ribble have now started a serious piece of expansion, so now you can get them in mainland Europe, and I believe in Australia they've now become available too. So hopefully that's a sign of plenty more big things to come from Ribble. With Boardman, obviously started by British cycling legend Chris Boardman a fair few years ago now. Their brand is split into two quite distinct halves. There's the standard Boardman range, which has always been available through one of the UK's biggest chain stores, Halfords. But then there's the Elite range, which is available at independent bike shops or direct online from them. So Boardman now with the Elite range has a global market to go at. And again, this is a brand that built their reputation on really, really good solid bikes with great spec for the money. Ribble's R872 has been around for a few years now. We first saw it back in 2013 and we were impressed with it then. It's a really good classic racing machine. It's got nice swoopy lines, which makes it really appealing. It was always nice and light in the chassis too, but for 2017 they've actually done quite a lot of major revisions on the frame. Outwardly it looks pretty similar to it always did, although there's a new fork now which kind of aero sculpts and integrates into the head tube. But under the skin, in the frame, they've massively increased the stiffness by, they claim, over 25%. There's a 15% increase in head tube stiffness and a serious reduction in weight too. Now that might all just sound a bit like marketing bluster, it certainly did to us, but when you get on the bike, they have retained that old R872 character where it feels stiff, it feels lively, it feels fast, and it's light with it. And as we've said, you know, talking about Ribble, there's no way of getting around without talking about value. And with this bike, it truly is exceptional. The small parts are taken care of by Deda's 0-100 range, which is really, really good quality. Aluminium stuff, but very good. They've looked after the contact points well with some real nice, deep, thick, padded quality Deda tape and a Celia Italia flight saddle, which is one of the classics. And then you get down into the meat of the bike, you've got full Ultegra Di2 here, no emissions, no downgrades, Ultegra brakes, and then the icing on the cake there is they've put in a set of Mavic Assyrian Pros, which is really, you know, one of the very best aluminium wheel sets around. And the fact that you get all this for under £2.5 grand is really impressive stuff. So out on the road with the Ribble, one of the best words I can come up with, it feels robust, and that's not detrimental. You know, it just feels rock solid, absolutely sharp, pinned, really fantastically quick to accelerate. Its overall weight is around 7.5 kilos for the XL, which is pretty impressive. But when you factor into that, you've got sub 1500 gram wheel set. This bike has got such a nice swift kick. You know, when you just get out the saddle and you want to sprint, it really, really flies with you. It also means it's a real boon when you're climbing. You know, having that light rolling stock, it's a bike that, you know, you really want to attack climbs on and look forward to the descent the other side, because this isn't any like noodly flyweight. This is a, you know, a solid, stiff, performing, great handling bike. That said, the Ribble's long, low riding position isn't going to suit everyone, but those that like that sort of character will really appreciate it. You know, with the Ribble, the frame is very, very competent. It's really good. It can't quite match the class of, say, a top-end Specialized, Cannondale, Giant, Merida, who have all put, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands more dollars of development work into creating their frames and investigating and all those sorts of things. But when you take the Ribble as a complete package, there's very, very little that can touch it. Boardman historically have been exceptionally good on value, although we would say in recent seasons the competition has got a lot fiercer when you consider, you know, online giants like Canyon, Ribble, Planet X. But it looks like for 2017, and especially on this model, which certainly looks to be the highlight of the endurance range, they've really, really managed to go to town. You know, so for a penny shy of 2,200, you'll get in a predominantly Dura-Ace drivetrain. The only emission from that is an FSA SLK carbon crank, which in our eyes isn't really a downgrade. It's a lighter unit than Dura-Ace and performs equally as well. And then you're looking into the brakes, you've got R785 units, which are the top end of Shimano's standard disc brake calipers, and that's where you see the kind of the the interesting things that have happened with the Boardman. Boardman are really, really early adopters to getting disc brakes on road bikes. So the fact that they've stuck with the standard mount rather than moving to the more minimal flat mount is an interesting choice. I'm sure it's something they'll probably change as flat mounts become more predominant. But then they've also gone through axle front and rear, but with a rather strange choice of a 15 front and a 12 rear, which is more akin to a mountain bike really. I'm not sure why they've done that. I should imagine they'll shift to 12-12 for ongoing models, but as most high-end disc wheels are available with multi-adapters so that you can fit any through axle to it, that's not necessarily an issue. And anybody thinking about the brakes being standard and not flat mount, these are 785s, these are the top-end standard brake. Why would you ever want to upgrade it? It's also the first time you would have seen Boardman's own brand wheels. In this case, it's a shallow section aluminium rim on those through axle hubs. It's a decent wheel set, weighing just over 1,700 grams. To put that in perspective, on a disc bike like this, you'd probably normally find Axioms, and an Axiom equivalent would be just over 1,900 grams. So there's potential saving there. The rim profile is pretty good, it's pretty wide, it's well suited to the 25mm tyres it comes with. Build quality seems fair. We could induce a little tiny bit of flex out of the wheels, but a quick run around with a spoke key just to get those tensions correct again, and that soon cured it. If in your mind you can discount the slightly strange through axle diameters and the old style disc brake mounts, then what you've got here is one hell of a package and a really seriously nicely riding bike. It'd be easy to write off a bike like the Boardman as just a very average frame hung with some really nice trinket, but that certainly isn't the case here. The SLR frame is a really, really good endurance frame. It's very nicely finished, very nicely appointed. The ride quality is excellent. And so what you're getting here is the complete package. It's not just jewellery hung off average carbon. So when it comes down to head-to-head, you look at the Ribble, it's classic race bike geometry. It's a classic race bike. It's got standard caliper brakes, but it has got the added advantage of Ultegra Di2, which is all the electronic groups that you'll ever need. Move on to the Boardman, and what you've got there is a really, really good, well-shaped endurance geometry. A good all-day riding bike. It's got the very best of mechanical group sets on it. It's got the advantage of disc brakes for all conditions, and the finishing kit that they've surrounded the rest of this bike with. That really bangs into that high-value accolades, and in our eyes, it's very, very close, but the Boardman gets it.